Great. So, hi again, Lynn. Welcome. I'm glad that you were able to attend. And I'm so excited that you are planning to take this particular Praxis exam. Since it's just you here with us today, you can definitely let me know if you feel more comfortable unmuting and talking and answer some things verbally, or if you would prefer to use the chat only, fine with either one of those. The structure for today, I'm going to give some basic kind of helpful hints for this particular test. And then we're going to go through some example questions, because really one of the kind of best strategies with this particular test is to familiarize yourself with the way they ask questions, the way to kind of approach the question, and then to think through the answer choices. And so that's what we'll be doing today for the most part. So my first couple of just general hints are as follows. So I think that the SPED test, this really is a really good example of all your various kind of core courses kind of put together. And so you're going to have to pull from your child development, courses, EDPR, your intro to Ed Psych, your intro to SPED course, your various assessment courses in SPED, classroom management, literacy. So I think that, one of the things that already to go ahead and start doing is to kind of pull out those notes from those courses and to just kind of remind yourself, because it's in there. The information is in there. It's inside of you. I promise it's there. So it's a matter of just remembering, right? And kind of reconnecting, because maybe it's been a while since you've thought about some of these things. Of course, you want to familiarize yourself with the format of the test overall, right? The layout of it, so that that's not brand new to you. And then the types of questions that they're going to be asking. For the most part, it's going to require some type of application on your end, right? Like multi-steps of kind of thinking through some things. But then it's going to also really require certain knowledge on your end, right? So certain terms that you need to know, certain things around certain exceptionalities that you need to remember, like, because they'll tell you one thing, but then just because they give you one thing, and then you need to know about 10 things, right? When they give you this one word. And so that's what we'll kind of go over today, pardon me. Okay, so, and Ms. Perkins has so many good resources to share with you as well. I am gonna just pull up first, Lynn, some sample questions from one of those resources. And so what I'm going to do is, Ms. Perkins, do you want me to read these questions aloud since it's recording, or just let them just share the screen visually?
You can do either. That works well for you.
Okay, pardon me. All right, I'm going to share the screen, and then I will also read them aloud here. Okay, great. So here we've got some example questions. So right before we start, you're going to see in this resource, it's already going to give you some reminders here around these different terms. And these are really, really important terms to make sure that you are very familiar with, right? So an IEP, certain exceptionalities such as ADHD. What is it? What does this mean? What are the strengths typically that come with this exceptionality? What are the needs that present in schools? Of course, this big law that we all should know, IDEA, the different types of teams, the different terminology that might be referred to as an IEP team here, the roles of paras, and then another exceptionality of EBD. Pardon me. So Lynn, we're gonna go through 5 questions at a time, right? So I'm gonna read these questions, and I'll have them as well here on my shared screen. And then I would like for you to take as much time as you need, but to write down your answers for these questions. And then you can either put them in the chat, or we can have a conversation about them. And then afterwards, we're gonna kind of talk through your approach to the question and why you chose, a certain answer for that. All right, so let's look at number 1. Charmaine is a 2nd grade student who has been found eligible for special education under the classification of intellectual disability. She receives daily mathematics instruction in a resource room. Her special education teacher wants to introduce Charmaine to the addition of single digit numbers. Which of the following strategies would be the best activity to use? A, make a 10, B, skip counting, C, counting backwards, or D, front end addition. And as you approach this question, I'm going to give you a strategy just to use for the future questions as well. So really look at all the details they give you here. So this student is a second grade student. So that's going to kind of tell you some information developmentally where this child is. Intellectual disability. So that's the exceptionality, that's the category. So what does this mean to you? Where is she receiving instruction? In a resource classroom. So this is a term that you should be familiar with as well. And then here's the actual question, right? This question is connected with this goal right here that our teacher wants to do. Which of the strategy will be the best activity to use? And I always include this word best when I'm thinking about my answers anyway, because it's like, well, which one is the best answer here? Because I tend to get caught up sometimes in multiple choice questions. I can maybe get them down to two, but I always kind of come back to what would be the best one. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next question here. Number 2. The least restrictive environment, LRE, as defined in IDEA, requires that students with a disability be A, educated with non-disabled peers only for elective courses, B, educated with non-disabled peers to the greatest extent possible, C, educated in a special school so that there is no interaction with non-disabled peers, or D, educated with the most assistance whether or not it be in the same environment as with non-disabled peers. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going so we can, and then we can kind of figure out our pace later if we need to, like either speed up or slow down. Tony is a 7th grade student classified with a specific learning disability. Her science teacher states that she is an active participant in class, completes homework on time, but her reading comprehension is below grade level. A chapter test is planned for next week. Which of the following assessment accommodations would be most appropriate for Tony's individualized education program? A, allowing the use of a dictionary to check spelling. B, reading the test aloud to her. C, administering the test to her in a separate room. Or D, providing her frequent breaks during testing. Number 4, Trish is a 6th grade student who is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. She has difficulty maintaining eye contact and makes impulsive comments during lessons. Which of the following behavioral strategies would best help Trish? A, assigning Trish a peer buddy to keep her on task. B, providing Trish a visual menu of appropriate behaviors. C, seating Trish next to the window so she can look outside. Or D, giving Trish high interest, low reading level assignments. All right, let's do one more, Lynn, and then we'll kind of check in and see how we're doing. Number 5, Isaac is a 4th grade student who has been classified with a mild intellectual disability. He attends a resource room for all academic subjects. He struggles to complete assignments independently, requires redirection to keep on task, and needs to be constantly reminded of the classroom rules. Which of the following is required before a behavior intervention plan can be developed? A, hiring a paraprofessional to work with Isaac. B, conducting a functional behavior assessment. C, assigning less homework. Or D, applying the current behavior reward system. Okay, Lynn, were you able to answer all 5 questions?
Yes, ma'am.
You were, okay, awesome. All right, let's go back over them then. So let's look back at number 1 here about our friend Charmaine here. Okay, so what did you come up with for your answer here, Lynn, as far as which of the following strategies will be the best activity to use?
I put A, make a 10.
Yeah, that's the right answer. Talk me through how you came to this answer.
Well, I'm more familiar with that strategy than the
Okay.
others. And, there's only single digits, of course, and they tend to be more easily learned that way.
Yeah. So yes, right. So one thing I heard you say was it's just single digits, right?
Right.
So we have to keep in mind like what the actual activity is. So to add single digits, this is going to be the best one here. Skip counting is typically going to be taught when you start to do like multiplication or something, right? Counting backwards is going to be connected more with subtraction. And then front end addition is going to be for those like bigger numbers. So like you were right, you were like, it's just single digit, making a 10. In order to make a 10, you have single digits, right? To get to the 10. So even if you weren't 100% sure, like the way you thought about that got you to the right answer. All right, that was great. Let's look at number 2 here. What was number 2 here? Yes, about the LERE, the LRE. So what was your answer for this one?
I put B.
That's correct as well. So did you know what, do you know for sure about the LRE? Like, did you remember?
Yes.
You did, okay, awesome, yep. So this is gonna be one of those things, this is as you know, this is one of those, in special education, this is a major term, right? So this will definitely show up on the test some kind of way, probably in more than one question. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you know what that is, and it seems like you do, so great. All right, number 3 here, let's see, this is a science test. Yes, okay. What did you have for your answer for number 3?
I put B.
Absolutely, yeah. And so why was this the best answer for this test, for this question?
I've actually got a little experience with that. A good friend of mine is a SPED teacher at the high school in Bolivar. And
Okay.
I was actually observing her class one day, and she was required to do this for a couple of students. So.
Okay, so I like how you're bringing in some experience, right? Either from observations or clinical work or your own experiences. The thing to also remember here is because all of these things that you did that are all the choices they gave you are things that teachers might do in a classroom for students. The accommodation just needs to match the need. So this particular need was around reading comprehension. So this dictionary to check spelling, some students might need that, but this scenario they gave us has nothing to do with spelling, right? The separate space, perhaps that would be helpful, but it's nothing up here is talking to us about that, right? About any kind of behavioral needs or concentration or anything like that. And the same thing for the frequent breaks. Nothing up here is connected with that. So this would be our best answer here, because reading the test aloud to this student has to do with a need in reading comprehension. And then number 4, let's see if we're on a roll here. What about number 4 here? What was number 4? Yes, so about Trish and ASD. Okay, what did you get for number 4?
This one was a little bit more difficult. I'm not as confident about this one, but I put B.
Yes, that's correct. B is correct, yeah. So what was your thinking on this one?
Well, it's kind of like you were talking about the last question, kind of the process of elimination. If she has trouble, making eye contact, she's not going to relate with probably a peer buddy. And sitting her next to a window is not going to help anything.
Right.
And then, giving her high interest to low reading level, it doesn't really address the problem either. So
it absolutely doesn't, right? Because there's nothing up here to do with reading comprehension or anything, right? So yeah, this visual menu would be the most appropriate for this out of these choices here, right? Even if it's something that you may not have experience with, or you may not even agree with sometimes as a test taker, you're doing exactly what you should be doing, is like take it, answer choice by answer choice and say, I think this is going to be the best possible answer for this particular question. Okay, and number 5. Let's see, which is this? Isaac, 4th grade. Okay, yes. What did we get for this one?
I put B on this one also.
Okay, yes, this is right again. And are you familiar with like BIPs and FBAs?
I actually just studied that in my classroom management class.
So. Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, this is going to be something that's, another like big kind of like SPED term and everything, right? The key thing here is anytime before you do a BIP, you have to do an FBA. They have to go together. You cannot do, and that's why this is going to be the best choice, right? Because you have to do this before a BIP can be developed here. These other choices, perhaps they will be part of a plan, right? Perhaps later on, the team may decide a pair will be really helpful. Assigning less homework would be really helpful because perhaps the behavior is rooted in being overwhelmed by the assignments or something, right?
The other answers also seem to be much more optional, and the term in the question was required. So I didn't
absolutely. Yep, required, and those have to go together and everything, right? Yes. Okay. Great. So how was that pacing? Do you need less time, more time? Was that okay with the questions?
It was good. Probably just a little less time.
A little less time. Okay, awesome. All right, let's do the next 5 here, okay? All right, so number 6, under IDEA, which of the following age groups are qualified to receive early intervention services? 0 to 2 years, 3 to 4 years, 5 to 6 years, 7 to 8 years. Number 7, which of the following rewards would be most appropriate for 5th grade students who have demonstrated appropriate classroom behavior? A, giving them ice cream sandwiches as an afternoon treat. B, assigning them no homework for an entire week. C, excusing them from the next chapter test. Or D, providing them with extra computer time. Okay, number 8. Which co-teaching model is demonstrated when the special education and general education teachers divide the class into 2 groups and separately deliver a lesson to a group? A, complementary teaching. B, alternative teaching. C, parallel teaching. Or D, shared teaching. Okay, number 9. Let me scoot back up here. Which of the following is a required component of any student's IEP? A functional behavior assessment. B, a behavior intervention plan. C, daily class schedule. Or D, annual goals. All right, and number 10. Jerry is a 10-year-old girl who scores within the average range for her age on both intelligence tests and achievement tests, but has difficulty completing tasks in school due to a lack of focus and impulsive behaviors. These symptoms are most consistent with a diagnosis of oppositional defiant disorder, traumatic brain injury, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or a specific learning disability. All right, you ready to go over these, Lynn?
Sure.
Okay, so let's look at number 6 here. So what did you get here for this early intervention services? What age? What age?
I remember studying about this, but I couldn't remember for sure. So I put C, 5 to 6.
Yeah, okay. So the key here is the early intervention services. This is actually a formal kind of term here. And so this correct answer is actually 0 to 2. And the reason it's that is because once a kid hits 3 years old, they can actually get an IEP when they hit 3 years old. Through laws such as like child find, it is the local school's responsibility to provide services. And so you might have a kid who's 3 who goes to like a certain kind of pre-K program, right? Or you may have certain 3-year-olds who receive speech and language services and everything. But up until then, it usually comes to the state will receive early intervention services, so 0 to 2. Does that make sense?
It does, and that
Okay.
sounds familiar now that you said that.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
second guess myself. So
No, you're fine, and that's pretty. I mean, so what you're just experiencing, this is, it's part of this, right? It's just like getting back familiar with these terms that you've already been introduced to. Okay, number 7 here. This was okay. What'd you get for this one? Number 7.
I put D.
Yeah, that's the answer, the correct answer on this test as well. What was your process for this one?
Well, I knew it wouldn't be B or C. That's a bit
Okay.
much. And I figured the more educational choice would be D, so we would go in that direction. So.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I like your process with this one. So most appropriate, right? That's right here in the question. Which one is most appropriate here? I think this test is generally going to kind of stay away from looking at things with like food as general kind of awards for students, because like there's some schools that don't allow this. Same thing for like, no homework and getting away from like the next, test. Like you can't really do that typically, right? But this one is definitely something that could be done. And a reward is typically something that you're giving to a student. But this question is interesting to me because I feel like it can be a little bit of back and forth with these choices here. All right, number 8. Let's see. Okay, so number 8, have you studied like the different co-teaching models in any of your classes?
Just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you come up with this one?
I went back and forth on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's either A or D, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, either A or D. And what was your thinking with that? Is it were you trying to remember, or were you trying to like think about what the first word means, or?
Again, I kind of second guess myself a lot in these situations. And when it says separately deliver a lesson, I'm like, are they teaching the same lesson? Or are they teaching different lessons?
Yeah.
Because if it's the same lesson, it could be shared. If it's different lessons, it could be complementary. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I think this question is not worded the best. But here it is and everything, right? So the answer is actually going to be parallel teaching here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's parallel teaching. And the way my brain thinks about this is because typically, for parallel teaching, you have to, the thinking is it has to be in two groups, parallel, like two lines,
right?
Like two parallel lines, right? It has to be that. And I agree with you, because with parallel teaching, you are supposed to be teaching the same thing. And so I do think, like, if that word was in this question, it would make it a little more kind of straightforward. Because with alternative teaching and with alternative teaching and with complementary teaching, you could be in two different groups, but they're teaching you two different things in those things. So, and then with shared teaching or like team teaching, they're not typically in groups with that. So for me, I would say if I had to choose it, I would come with this one, because with these two, so let's say we land and we say it could be A, B, or C, right? These two are the most similar, and this one is a little bit different from these two. So then I would kind of choose to say, okay, I'm going to go with C for my answer.
Right. And I think if I would have read the question a little more carefully, yeah, it would have made it would have been a little more clear to me. So
yeah. Okay. But I think it's good that you're recognizing like which questions you get like this, right? And which ones you have a little pause with it. Okay, let's look at number 9. So this is a question about an IEP. It's a very kind of straightforward question because it's a required component of an IEP, right? And like you said for the earlier question, this word required is key in this question. So what did you come up with your answer for this one?
Put D on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Any IEP must have annual goals, right? An IEP might have these behavior things, and it might even have, this class schedule some kind of way in it, right? But it doesn't have to. But you have to have annual goals in any IEP. Okay. Did you feel pretty confident with that one?
Yes, I did.
You did. Okay, great. Okay, and number 10. Let's see. Okay, yes. So they're describing a certain exceptionality here. What did you come up with your answer?
I put C.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And while of course, like there can be some similarities between all of these, you have to kind of choose most consistent with, right? And so that's going to be our answer with that for ADHD. Lynn, you're doing very well on these questions. Yeah. Should we do a few more? Let's do a few more here. So we'll do the next 5, 11 through 16 here, or 11 to 15. Yeah, okay. Okay, so number 11 here. Seating students in a semicircle is most beneficial in which of the following ways? Students can easily work in small groups. The teacher can easily monitor each student. Students can leave the classroom quickly. The desk fit better in a classroom. Number 12. Justin is a 2nd grade student who has a mild intellectual disability. What is an advantage of seating him in a cooperative cluster? A, Justin will be able to participate more in classroom discussions. B, Justin will be in closer proximity to the teacher. C, Justin can work with a partner if he has questions. Or D, Justin can sit near the window. Number 13. Which of the following activities is the best example of a summative assessment? A, an end of chapter test. B, writing sentences using spelling words. C, completing a homework assignment. D, completing a clothes activity. Okay, sorry, I have a little cold or something. Okay. Number 14. Which of the following is the best example of differentiating instruction? A, exempting half the class from a homework assignment. B, assigning different students to read certain chapters of a read aloud book. C, asking all the boys to make a poster and all the girls to write an essay. D, allowing students to summarize a chapter with a poem, an essay, or a cartoon. And number 15. Okay. Patrick, a third grade student, has recently been diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. Which of the following symptoms would Patrick most likely exhibit? A, involuntary movements. B, paralyzed legs. C, loss of visual acuity. Or D, a hearing loss. Okay, Lynn, are you ready?
I am.
All right, let's do this. We are on number 11. Is that where we were? Okay, yes. All right, so this might be connected with your classroom management course that you're taking. So seating students in a semicircle is most beneficial in which of the following ways? What did you come up with for your answer for number 11?
B.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because that's all about the visual access that a teacher has and everything. So this is not like C is just kind of like that doesn't have anything to do with it, right? They can leave the classroom more quickly. The desk fit better in the classroom. We don't know how the classroom is designed and everything, right? So it would have to be one of these two. And then this is going to be the better answer, because working in small groups would be more so like having the students in clusters or something, right? Versus the semicircle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 12. Okay, so this is about Justin. Yes. What did you think for number 12?
But C.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the correct answer. So why did you choose C versus A?
Well, in a cooperative cluster, that's not necessarily going to promote his participation in discussions, in classroom discussions. It might in the small group discussion, but not in the classroom.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. And I think that like with a question like this, like it would kind of want you to force you to kind of think through A and C, right? And so this is going to be the better choice between A and C. Because, right, we don't know, this is not necessarily the whole class, working like this is not going to necessarily help him with the whole class activity for discussion. All right, number 13. So summative assessments, right? So this is going to be, you probably have taken some courses when you talk about like summative versus formative assessments. So that's where this question is kind of coming from. So what did you get for your answer for number 13?
Put A. Yeah,
that's right. The end of chapter test and everything. Did you have any, like, were you struggling with this one, or did you know immediately that's the right answer?
Yeah, I knew immediately what that
was. Perfect. All right, great. Number 14. Okay, so this is going to be another big one here. So differentiation, right? This is a term that will be on the test, I'm sure, several different ways. So what did you get for your answer for number 14?
14, I put D.
Yeah, that's right. because this is going to be a way to differentiate output of a student's learning, right? Different ways for them to show what they've learned from a unit, or from whatever they've learned and everything. Great. Okay, and number 15, let's see. So this is going to require us to know about Tourette syndrome. So a very specific exceptionality there, right? Okay.
Right.
So what did you get for number 15?
I put A.
Yes. And again, has to do with making sure that you know exactly what this exceptionality, what it is and everything, right? Okay, so all of these questions that we've kind of gone over so far, these are examples of the type of questions that you might have, right? So you could have a question like this and like that ADHD question, right? But it's not about Tourette syndrome or about ADHD. It could be about emotional behavior, disorder. It could be about an intellectual disability. So that's why, like, one of the things that we want to make sure that we know is that you go back to like your SPED 2000 course, notes, to like just refamiliarize yourself with the various categories in IDEA and those different disabilities that could be represented there. All right, I see we have another participant. Do you want to pause at all, Ayana?
Yes, I have been chatting with Monica in
Oh, okay.
the chat. Hello, Monica, and welcome. We're just discussing some of the answers in the Praxis companion. I'll drop a link to it in the chat.
Okay. Let's just do 5 more, and then we can we'll open up for just general kind of questions and things that you all may have for us here. So let's do 16 through 20. Or actually, I think it goes through 23. Let me get to finish them all up. Let me make sure. Yeah, let's go through 20. Let's finish this. Let's finish this up here, y'all. We're gonna go through 23. So we're back on number, let's see, where did we stop at? 15 last time? Yes. So here's number 16. So let's go ahead and answer 16 through 23 here. And so, Monica, we're just going to have you answer as best as you can. And then we're going to go over our answers and our thinking, because the thinking part is what I think is really the most important part here for you all to gain confidence in the way you've been approaching questions and thinking, and then to just kind of tweak some strategies where needed. So number 16, Jamie is a first grade student with a specific learning disability in the area of mathematics. The class is learning to solve addition problems. Which of the following accommodations would most likely be included in his IEP? A, permitting Jamie to use a calculator to solve word problems. B, allowing Jamie to answer word problems verbally during tests. C, allowing Jamie to use manipulatives to solve word problems. Or D, reading problems to Jamie during tests. Okay. And number 17, the IDEA, okay, IDEA requires that early intervention services, and we just talked about this, Lynn, that early intervention services for infants and toddlers be delivered according to an individualized family service plan. An IFSP and an IEP are similar, yet contain important differences. Which of the following is exclusive to the IFSP? A, it includes a statement of the child's strengths and needs. B, it includes information on family support services, nutrition services, and case management. C, it includes projected dates for the beginning of each service and where each service will take place. Or D, it includes a statement of the rights of parents or guardians to accept or decline any special education service or related service without jeopardizing any other service. Okay, number 18. Which of the following actions will most likely facilitate productive communication between a special education teacher and a student's parents or guardians at a parent-teacher conference? A, the special education teacher sets the agenda and ensures that the student's parents adhere to the discussion points. B, the special education teacher conducts the conference using education jargon and technical language. C, the special education teacher discusses the student's academic strengths and offers suggestions for how the student can improve on weaknesses. Or D, the special education teacher instructs the parents on how to provide guidance to the student in a more consistent manner. Okay, there's a few more, y'all. Number 19 here. Which of the following is an accurate statement about what IDEA requires for any IEP? A, the IEP must include a multi-year outline of instructional objectives. B, the IEP must include a section on assistive devices, regardless of the nature or degree of the student's disability. C, the IEP must be in effect before special education services or related services are provided. Or D, the IEP must not be made available to any school personnel except special education teachers. Right, number 20. To promote the transfer of word attack skills to newspaper reading, a middle school teacher of students with mild intellectual disabilities is most likely to A, prepare teacher-made newspaper articles for students to read. B, select articles from the local newspaper for students to read. C, develop writing exercises using words from the curriculum. Or D, prepare worksheet exercises based on single sentences from newspaper articles. And we've got 3 more to go, y'all. Number 21, Jen, a 6th grade student, receives special education services under the category of specific learning disability. Jen's IEP states that written assignments will be completed using word processing and speech recognition software. Which of the following is most likely to promote successful use of assistive technology? A, limiting the amount of written homework. B, providing software for home use. C, assigning keyboarding homework. Or D, allowing choice of topic for written assignments. Okay, our last 2. Number 22 right here. Which of the following would be an important daily living skill for a high school student with an intellectual disability? A, knowing the multiplication table. B, using a microwave oven. C, identifying the states on a map. Or D, stating the main idea of a paragraph. All right, and finally, number 23. Which of the following supports is most likely to help Beth, a middle school student with autism spectrum disorder? be successful in her new placement? A, allowing Beth to attend school for half a day the first month, providing Beth with a visual schedule of daily activities, taking Beth on a tour of the school so that she can become familiar with the layout of the classrooms, or D, providing Beth with time away from her classmates when she has an outburst. Okay, y'all, let's get back up here to where we were. We were at 16, right? Yes, okay. Okay, so Lynn and Monica, what did you all think about number 16 here, about Jamie, who has a learning disability in math? What do you all get for your answer for number 16?
I chose C.
You chose C? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What about you,
I chose
Lynn?
C also.
Yeah, you both are correct. You both are correct. The one key thing here is to look at this grade. Jamie's in the first grade here, right? This use of calculator is not going to really be that appropriate for this first grader, to do this. But using the manipulatives to solve word problems would be very appropriate, for a student of this age whose brain kind of thinks about mathematical beings in a different way and everything, right? So being able to have this like manipulative, they can touch it, they can look at it, they can move it around themselves, is going to be really helpful. Okay, great. Number 17. All right, so number 17, oh yes, is asking about the difference between an IFSP and an IEP. So 3 of these are going to be true about both of them, and then 1 was only true about an IFSP. So what did you all have for your answer for number 17?
I put B.
But B, okay. Monica?
I was getting paper out, but if I had to guess right now, I would say, I guess D. They're just taking a stab.
Okay, that's fine. Yep. Yeah. This is correct. B is the correct answer. And this might be one of those questions again where you have to find out which one is only true about IFSP, right? So that we know that at least 3 of these are going to be true about both. So if you're someone who is more familiar with IEPs, then you go through this list and say, well, what do I definitely know is true about IEPs, right? And if you do that, you're going to land on this one. I'm most likely you're going to say, I'm not quite sure. I don't remember about nutrition services definitely having to be a part of an IEP. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. So that would be your answer for number 17. Y'all are rocking and rolling. Y'all must have some good professors in your program. Okay, number 18. Oh yes. Now this would also, I would think, Lynn, be a part of your classroom management, course here. So what did y'all land on here about this effective, productive communication between teacher and a parent?
Let's see.
I chose C.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely, right? Because this one was, again, pretty straightforward, right? This is a definite no-no. We don't just use this jargon, technical language. A teacher should not be instructing a parent to kind of do certain things. So this is going to be our best answer here, because we want to definitely discuss our students' strengths, right? That should be our primary thing that we're doing. And then we get into some areas where they may need some different or more support. All right, number 19 here. Okay, so another question about an IEP. Do y'all see how this will be on the test a lot? The requirements of an IEP. What was the answer for number 19?
I chose B and C.
Okay.
B or C.
You narrowed it down. Good.
I was a little distracted during 19 and 20, but I put B. I wasn't sure.
Okay. So we've narrowed it down to, we've got some B's here and then possibly a C, right? So let's look at this. which of the following is an accurate statement about what IDEA requires for any IEP? So B says the IEP must include a section on assistive devices, regardless of the nature or degree of the student's disability. The IEP must be in effect before special education services or related services are provided. When you revisit those choices, is there one that stands out to you that's just kind of like, oh yeah, well this definitely has to happen. This is the one between B and C that feels more like a requirement? Does it stand out to you when you revisit these two choices? Or are you still kind of stuck between the two of them?
C.
Yeah, it's C, right? So because the IEP is what provides these special education services. If a student does not have an IEP, they do not receive these services. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It does, yes.
Yeah, and every student doesn't necessarily have to have assistive, devices or whatever. They'll just mark, not needed. Okay, let's keep going. Number 20. Okay, so this really takes some kind of like sitting down, kind of thinking through, okay, we're talking about word attack skills. We're talking about transferring a skill to something like in real life, even though we don't really read newspapers that much anymore. But you think through, like, what are they asking us, right? They're asking about this transferring of skills, for students here. So what did you all get for your answer for number 20?
I picked A.
Okay. Preparing teacher made newspaper articles.
I put B.
You put B, yeah. So I think that out of these, it would be between A and B, right? The key here, I think, is going to be this word transfer, right? Because when you're transferring skills, you really are transferring skills to newspaper reading. So in the question, they want students to be able to use these word attack skills on a newspaper. So most likely it's going to be choose a local newspaper here, right? Because then it's something that exists in the real world. It's a real life situation that you can actually transfer skills to. Does that make sense, Monica? But I think that like it also makes sense that you all narrowed it down to A and B.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. I think this word transfer here is going to be the key word here. All right, y'all, we're almost done and we only have 2 minutes left. Okay, so 21. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is a really good, I like this question a lot. What did you all get for this answer? So this student has these certain services written into their IEP here. So which is going to be most likely to promote this successful use of assistive technology? What did y'all think?
I was torn on this one.
Mm-hmm.
If they're wanting to promote the use of the technology, I would say provide software for home use. And I was like, or is it A, limiting the amount of written homework? So,
those are two I chose this week.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Very good. So the answer here is going to be B for the test here. Which of the following is most likely to promote successful use of it? I think that A kind of inherently suggests that, right? Because you're kind of like reading into the next step, right? You're like, okay, well, if we limit the amount of written homework, we're limiting it because we want them to be able to use the assistive technology, right? Well, this answer choice is actually saying that. This choice is saying we want you to use it more. So we don't have to like take the next step, right? It's like, okay, we're providing this for them to actually use it. Y'all are doing a great job with the way you're kind of thinking through these questions. Okay, and number 22, the key here is daily living skill. What y'all think about this one?
I chose B.
Absolutely. That's going to be a daily living skill, right? Cooking and being safe with things. And finally, number 23, autism spectrum and the new placement. So this question the way this question is written, you have to know what are some of the characteristics of students, typical characteristics of students with autism in order to be able to best apply this answer here. What did y'all think about number 23?
I put B on that.
I put B,
That's right.
But I was still looking at B and C.
You look at B and C?
But I chose B.
Yes. I think Monica, I think that you're right. I mean, this is going to be very, very helpful. Typically, right, for a student. We narrow it down here just because, the whole thing about like schedules and kind of being, keeping things in a certain order is definitely the best. But I also agree with you. I feel like this question could be like the other question we had, could have been worded a little bit better for us. I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay. So we have it's time, it's 3:00. Any last minute kind of questions for me, or did you feel like you kind of you've come away with what you need to work on a little bit more for yourself for this particular test?
I'm glad I was able to catch that, those questions that I did catch, and definitely look into the IEP section of my book. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good, Monica. I think, and I was saying, if you can go back over your notes from like SPED 2000, that's going to be really helpful with a lot of these like overall kind of terms and everything to remember. What about you, Lynn? You did so well. You probably got them all correct. You maybe just missed maybe like 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, I think I missed like 3.
Okay. Do you feel more confident?
Boosts my confidence. Yes.
Good.
I'm a nervous test taker.
Yes.
I second guess myself a lot. So
I do as well on tests. And so the best advice I can give you for that is just to keep so Ms. Perkins has a ton of resources. So like just keep studying them and just getting more familiar, with the way they ask questions, and really like take your time through those questions, right? Like read it 2 or 3 times and really make sure that you're pulling out those little things they're giving you, because that might be the key in figuring out the correct answer for the test once they have it the correct answer. Well, you all, it's 3:02, so I'll turn it back over to Ms. Perkins.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barnes. That was amazing. And I'm just amazed that you all were able to get through all of those questions in that time. So that's wonderful. If you all need any additional support, then I'm going to drop my email in the chat so that you all have opportunity to meet with me one-on-one. You can schedule an appointment and we can talk about a study plan if you need that. We do have additional resources that are available, but I want to suggest that if you are taking the test soon, please, when you register, they're going to provide you with a test, a practice test in ETS. All you have to do is sign on to your portal, and they have it on the left-hand side. There's a link that gives you a code, and all you have to do is copy that code, and you have access to that for 90 days. So even after your test, you need to know that for all of the tests, they have this available. So please make use of that because it is helpful for most tests. All right, thank you all for coming. You can stick around if you have any questions. I'm just going to stop the recording right now.